We live. We have no women. We have
no reason not to clap sync this time.
Classic. 3, 2, 1. This mic is just in front of me because it's not really recording, but it looks fancy.
It's a beautiful prop.
It's a nice little prop. Welcome everybody. We are back in the booth.
Yes.
This is great. High energy, maximum effort.
Yeah.
As always in the booth, it is me, Hero, your host, and as always, my co-host on the ones and twos, Mr. Eric, and today's a very special episode.
Yeah.
Because we're talking about one thing and one thing only today. And quick note, shout out, I don't know when this is coming out, but shout out to our last guest, Joy. It was so nice having you here and letting you complain about our cold dungeon.
Yeah.
But we appreciate the oil.
The oil, look at that. Look at the oil.
We appreciate it.
That's a flower in there. Y'all can't see that? That's a flower, boy.
We got the
It smells so good, man. She gave it to me for the retail. I'm gonna pay retail for it. Y'all, Hero might edit that in there. I try not to do it on camera, but I know him. He gonna edit it.
I ain't try to be sly with it. I was like, nah, bro. Yeah. I'm coming for it.
Yeah, that's that card there. She just gave me a
so
card.
So we want to say shout out to Joy. Good luck to your business.
Oh, she don't need no luck, man. She got it.
I'm saying good luck to her because she got a lot of work to do, but you are more than capable of doing it.
Oh yeah.
You are the hero of Pine Bluff. You are the hero Pine Bluff needed.
Yeah,
but to be honest, they don't deserve her because she's really good, man. She's really good.
She, in her own words, I mean, she is definitely wife material. She checks all the boxes.
Somebody should have put a ring on it.
Somebody will very soon. You know what I'm saying? And she wear that pink and green. It's only a matter of time before she get the ring.
So, with those great things being said, this is a episode, guys, and this is how you know Hero's a pretty shit producer, because my own co-host has said this to me at least 3 times. Let's do an episode on what?
Emotional intelligence.
You hear Eric say this so much in the podcast. And I've counted, there's at least 5 different podcasts where Eric has mentioned the word emotional intelligence. And it's important that we talk about this, especially in the black community, but this goes beyond color, race, gender, identity, theory. Mm-hmm. Your ability to mentally focus, the capacity to tolerate, speaks volumes for your character and who you are and what you want to be about.
Exactly.
So, Eric, this is really your forte because we have varying ideas on what it means to be emotionally intelligent and also what it takes to be emotionally intelligent, because I'm a firm believer there's some people that aren't capable of it.
I'm not going to disagree with you on that.
But you have but if there's any situation that me and you would have normally argued on, you're more in line of people being able to achieve this status, and that's mystifying to me. So tell us a little bit of what emotional intelligence means to you.
First and foremost, emotional intelligence has to deal with a person's ability or even desire to control their feelings. And by that, it's kind of multifaceted. The first part is not allowing external stimuli to dictate how you feel. But if you do feel a certain way about something outside of yourself, that you're cognizant enough to be introspective about why that made you feel a certain way, and then being responsible in your response to said feelings. So, for instance, if Heroes says something personal about my wife, he knows that's a hot button for me because he knows me. But him saying something negative about my wife would make me angry. But Hero is not in charge or responsible for my anger. I am. And I have to be smart enough to say that if I'm going to be angry, it's because I decided to be angry, not because somebody said something I didn't like. Even if I am angry and I respond, is this the right place? Is it the right time? Am I going to express that in the proper way? You know?
And I piggyback off of that because that's a great point. Being in control, there's a level of control that certain people you won't be able to attain anymore. Like, for me to insult Eric's loved ones is one thing. For Eric to react to those things is another. Mm-hmm. And you have to have the capacity. And when I say capacity, your internal intake of tolerance needs to be high. Mm-hmm. You have to accept a few things walking in this life. There are dumb people everywhere.
Facts.
And they haunt you. They follow you. They know who you are. Your ability to fall prey to their traps is really a sly on you. And I was guilty of this a long time ago as a younger age. But now in my adult age, I was just telling you I had a debate about a person about Israel and Palestine, why they are fighting and why it's not okay to kill people. And he started bringing up Bible verses. I was like, okay, you win, bro. Hey, you win. I was talking about something that happened today. You're talking about something that happened a few thousand years ago. You win. You have every right. These are how I put people in place. I use facts to break it down. But you believe emotional intelligence is hindering a certain group of people?
Oh, facts. I believe first and foremost it is hindering dark skinned people
and let's even take it a second, because the people might not grasp what emotional intelligence is not just about how you feel when someone tries to make you angry. Mm-hmm. It's also how you feel when someone tries to make it. If you won $1 million today, mm-hmm. if your first thing you went out to go buy is a car, your emotional intelligence is not where it needs to be. Mm-hmm. Emotional intelligence covers a stratosphere of things. But carry on with who you think this is affecting the most.
I mean, it affects black people, especially black males. Mm-hmm. I mean, listen, if you're a black male and you're listening or watching this podcast, you need to know that the statistics against you are staggering when it comes to accomplishments in this society. You are, for all intents and purposes, the lowest of the low on the totem pole in this country. I mean, it's facts. Let's just compare you to black women. 10 of you will go to college, 4 of you will graduate. 10 of them will go to college, and 7 to 8 of them will graduate. What does that say about the widening gap in education? Socioeconomic status. She will out-earn you by $20,000 a year, and that's just a fact. Why? Because she not just beyond the help. Being able to control how you feel is something that most men don't have, especially black guys. Like, I was raised by a single mom, and I was a wild child. I was the kid to fly off the handle. Like, I'm not finna let nobody punk me. You're not finna hold me. You're not finna make me feel like less than a man. I had a wrong idea of what a man was. And it wasn't until I got around a group of men who weren't easily offended by what people said. They just let it roll off of them because it's like, I have a greater agenda. These people aren't going to bother me. It wasn't until I got around those guys that I realized that, hey, just because somebody said or did something I don't like means I have to respond in an aggressive way. And I don't have to always defend myself. You know, the need to always defend yourself means there's something that means you actually need to defend yourself. If you're always having to give an explanation, always having to one up, and also always having to rebut whatever someone says, means that what you actually do on a day-to-day basis doesn't speak loud enough, so you have to get words to it.
And that's a very interesting concept, because what you're basically saying is the emotional intelligence isn't something you acquire overnight.
No.
It's something you have to practice.
Yes.
You have to practice being conservative in a sense of your language or your outburst. Mm-hmm. Like, you have to be able to think analytical enough to analyze a problem.
Yes.
And dictate if it's something worth giving energy. Like, think about all the stuff you have to do in one day, and if you could save. And when you go to lay down every day, you're so tired. You wake back up and you're still tired. It's because you're wasting a lot of energy on things that aren't necessarily important. Like, how much of your day, your energy, your time is being wasted on fruitless attitudes and trying to prove something. Posturing is what I like to call it. Because this is something you see in young teenagers, high school kids. They posture a lot. Yeah. Like, they poke their chest out and say something like GDK, GD this. And I'm like, you are a child. You can't rent a car. There's no... Your infatuation with being identified is what's you're leading to your downfall. So I almost want to say is emotional intelligence tied to lack of self-identity?
I would say definitely. I mean, you have to think about it. People who are sure of themselves and know who they are, what they are, and where they come from, they don't always have the need to have so much bravado or so much what I like to call pump faking. You know, it's like pretending like you're gonna do something, bucking at me, but I know you're not gonna get out here and throw these hands.
Wouldn't bust a fruit in a grape fight or whatever it is called.
Yeah,
and it's like so we've identified a parameter. So a parameter is such as we know emotional intelligence is something that affects all of us. We know some of the things that might trigger it, such as environmental things, emotional things, internal things. But let's talk about internal self-health. How important is it to have a mental note? Because people don't take into consideration meditating. Yeah. Meditating is something I've recently started doing, and it's something that, and people think of meditation as just a calm. You can use meditation for creativity, meditation to fall asleep. People think it's crazy when I say I meditate before I sleep to help me sleep, because when you're a creative thinker, it's hard to put your mind at ease.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's hard to unwind. Part of being able to identify when you're not in control of yourself is being able to identify what a controlled you looks like. Yeah. And when you're in control of yourself, you're in a moment of Zen, as I like to call it, or as I like to see it. So how important is being able to identify yourself at peace before you can go out and find what an out of control version of you looks like?
Man, bro, I say that's paramount. I mean, what you do, like meditate, you know, other people might find in, you know, a personal activity. Like,
yeah, it could be physical, weightlifting as well.
Like, I like to lift weights. That's what gives me, you know, a feeling of tranquility, some kind of serenity, some kind of you know, exhilarating feeling, but also
I might actually try and get you into the frame some more.
Introspection. I mean, it's all good.
Okay.
I mean, just being introspective, and I hear people talk about that. It's funny, me and my barber were talking about introspection, but you know, not a lot of people hear that term, but they don't really know what it means to look inside yourself. That means you have to be able to be humble enough and objective enough to look inside yourself and play out a scenario and say, how was I an idiot? What part did I play? How can I be responsible for my actions?
If you're always right in your scenarios, you are not living. Something's wrong.
Yes.
If you're always right in your scenario, there's something wrong. That is a great point. And is part of that like self-awareness, because I was just trying to think, like, what does it mean, or how important is it to have that distraction? Like, because there's a group of people in this world where there's like a world where men don't cry. Hey, I cried during Black Panther, man. When he came to his father and said, "You let us fucking down, and I can't rest because of you," that shit hit me. That shit, like, people are afraid to show that level of vulnerability, but it feel like being comfortable with the uncomfortable things makes you better at that thing.
Yes.
So if I had to pose the question, so now we have an idea of the parameter, which is what's like, who it affects, how it can affect you, your environmental, and what you determine. what is a deterrent to keep you within your your emotional status? And I immediately turn to a police situation. When you're being harassed by an officer, being emotionally intelligent will put you in a perspective where you don't say a word, you start recording, but furthermore, you don't fall into the trap of escalating in the officer's favor. Because Stephen Clark has taught us anything, your back turned with a cell phone in your hand, you're getting shot. So with that being said, or even right here in Fort Worth, Texas, Methodist Hospital, if you're a patient discharged and your parents are stuck in traffic, you're black, you're getting punched in the face. Or Stepford, Virginia, or where did this happen? Black kid misses the school bus, knocks on the door for directions, gets shotgunned. You're black, you're at a disadvantage. So it's more important for you, out of all people, if you're not doing anything, you're still guilty.
Yeah.
In the eyes of many people. So bringing that from a racial standpoint now to a general standpoint, is it fair to say that in order for you to have a better locus of control, I guess, you have to almost force yourself to think of these scenarios before they happen?
Yes, you are responsible for playing it out. And here's something that I took up as a kid. I had the fortunate opportunity to go to parochial school in my 6th grade year. It's where I got exposed to reading books and chess. And, chess is a big part of my life. I have the app on my phone. I'm not as serious about it as I was 2 years ago. I mean, I played every day for 3 or 4 hours.
You know what? I'm gonna start playing you in it because I learned a little bit, but I want to get better at it.
Chess is a great game. It's a great game. It's 64 squares on a board, and each side has 16 pieces. And the object of the game is to feed your opponent pieces and make them think that they took the pieces, all the while you're flanking them and cornering them and giving them no way to get out. And it forces you to play scenarios out of your head. If I make this move, then this person can make this move, followed by this move, and this move. And sometimes that's multifaceted. Sometimes you'll make a move, and there'll be 3 ways you can get attacked. And there's several moves that go within those 3 methods of attack. But you have to be a person that can sit down and say, if I do this, and this could happen. And all the possible shoots that come off. But that's what it takes for you to go in your room and sit down and replay the day. Something happens to you at your job. You think about it. Even if that means you got to go to the bathroom for 5 minutes. You think about it. I look at me and my job, and I'm very methodical about what I say, who I talk to, who I don't talk to, what information I give them.
Shout out to the people at the job watching the podcast.
Shout out to y'all, man. Y'all know y'all. I'm not gonna call y'all name out. I don't want y'all getting lumped in, but no, we definitely show you love. And I got some people at the job that I've become good friends with. Shout out to y'all. I didn't even know y'all was watching the podcast. That warmed my heart up.
How come y'all couldn't like me when I was...
Nah. Listen. We ain't going down that road. But seriously, it's being able to sit down and really go through these scenarios and finish them out in your head and say, okay, if I do this, X, Y, Z. And even something better, having somebody to keep you accountable, I'm getting ready to make moves at the job or in business or something. First person I'm talking to is my wife. I'm going to say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I thought about doing. What you think? Baby, I don't know if you should do that. Okay, you right. For X, Y, and Z. I didn't play that one out in my head. Call my man Hero. Hey, Hero, this X, Y, and Z happened. I'm thinking about doing 1, 2, and 3. He's like, yeah, I'm good with 1 and 2, but 3, let's just scrap that all together because reason 1.
And it takes, and then for that level of dialogue, that's not some conversation you can have with anybody.
No.
You need to obtain a certain level of trust, more importantly, I feel, than trust even, is a certain level of respect. Because innately, once again, this is you have to reverse engineer your mind. You're innately taught to outrun whoever's running next to you.
Yeah.
When you've become mentally mature, you learn to run with the person next to you because you're a lot more unstoppable together than separated. And this is something true about a culture of people versus so much a gender or individual. As an individual, you cannot beat an army. A small militia, you can do damage. Guerrilla warfare, look it up, 1914 or 1419. Like, whatever it takes for you to put yourself in a position of inclined information, you have to get there. Information is key. And same thing goes vice versa. My questions and my deliberation on what ethically is right and wrong comes down to a T. We had a scenario with Eric. Eric is definitely cunning. I am malicious with my power. I will hunt someone down to prove a point. And I will take all restraints are off. This is because I want to prove someone is a scumbag or a dirtbag, but that might not be financially or ethically appropriate for ETO, which is why I have a balance and a check. Eric's on the board of directors and will hold the most power. If Eric doesn't think it's going to fly, even if I throw around my 50%, I still need to get someone else to go against Eric. And that is when their check and balance comes. Because if I can't blatantly disagree with my partner, then it's not a partnership. It is a dictatorship. These do not work because, once again, it goes back to the you're always right scenario, which is what you don't want. Part of being emotionally stable is being comfortable with being wrong. Yes. And not just being wrong for the sake of being wrong, understanding what's wrong with that process. If you're having an argument about numbers, you can't bring the alphabet into the conversation and say you're right. These are developmental skill sets that we develop, which makes us a little bit more equipped to handle the stressors of everyday activities. And granted, this isn't a bulletproof method. No one, I think it's one of those situations where you can't acquire 100% enlightenment in this situation.
But it can definitely be a starting place for people to say, oh snap, I've made some rash judgments, I've spoken too quickly, I didn't think through that process. If I would have just paused for 5 minutes, if I would have just excused myself and went to the car, to the bathroom, and thought it out, or called somebody I really trust and say, hey, this just happened, I'm getting ready to do this, what you think? It could have stopped a lot of people from going to jail, getting fired, maybe getting that promotion or that raise, or maybe bagging that chick or that dude that you wanted. I mean, these are things that happen to us on a daily basis that we don't even give any semblance of humility that comes with being emotionally intelligent. There is actually quite a bit of humility. For me to call up another grown man to talk, to say, hey, bro, let me just bounce off my ideas. Do you think it's the best approach? You know how much humility that takes to call another man to ask another man what he thinks about what's going on in your life? First of all, the fact that this man even cares enough to answer the phone and to sit here and listen to me pipe on for 30 minutes and then, us walk through it, that takes a level of humility.
And I even want to take it a step further and say, because that's a great point. And if you're the person receiving that call, you have a moral obligation to give the person who is reaching out to you the utmost realness of the situation. You are not in it to save feelings.
Yeah.
You are not in it to save. I know when I fuck up. I know, like, I pushed a scenario and I pushed it to the brink. I could have easily walked away, but I wanted to prove a point. When I brought this information to Eric had one of two choices. He could have looked at the situation, which he did, and said, it's not a good look, but it's what you got to do. Or he could have been like, no, bro, just bow your head and walk and back up, which is the advice some people gave me. Certain people of color gave me this advice to just bow your head and walk away. And they said later on, I regret giving you that information, and that's why you never got called back.
Because that ain't the advice that I gave.
And it's like you have to be very, very comfortable accepting statuses in your life that you can't control.
Yeah.
There's no level. There are people, like my dad said this to me, and it kind of blew my mind. He said, no matter how hard you try, there's still people that are not going to like you here.
Yeah.
A+ student, college athlete, great smile, great personality. There's someone that's not going to like you. You have to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. So as we kind of focus in on what overall it means to you, now that you have the structure, which is the who it affects, the way it affects you physically, mentally, emotionally, internally, how to cope with it, exercising, drawing, confiding in others. Now let's talk about how you can build on this. And for me, ultimately, is don't get comfortable. Every time you have an opportunity, one of the things that I've been working on desperately this year, as great as a social person I am, I have a difficult time looking people now when I talk to them. And most of it comes from because I'm mostly bashful, but the big part of it is because I know when I look at people now, I tend to gauge them, which is something I innately do. That's how I read people. I can tell when they're lying. Mm-hmm. And in the back of my mind, I'm saying to myself I don't want to know if you're lying to me. Yeah. I want to take you at face value. It now hinders me in my real day-to-day activities when I have to go look at a prisoner and hear his full story.
Oh, snap.
And I can't gauge him anymore, and I have to read a 400-page dossier about his case. Yeah. It's a lot easier when I go into the room and just like, you're lying. Mm-hmm. You're going to sit here for another 6 hours, and I'll come back when you feel like telling the truth. Yeah. Wait. That's leverage I have. Yeah. So what other ways do you plan to grow on your emotional intelligence?
The one thing that I've learned is, besides, once you get the practice of being introspective, looking over your situations, I realized that the people that I was talking to about these situations weren't necessarily qualified to give me the best advice, the things that I needed. And it's good to have that friend to put a battery in your back, and it's good to have that friend that's overly cautious, I guess. But what I realized that I needed was somebody mentally sharp enough to play out every scenario. To say, okay, what's the end game? Why are we talking about this? And how not only are you going to benefit, but be in a position to benefit others if we play this correctly. You know, it's conversations you and I have all the time. But again, what I'm saying is it forced me to step outside of my circle that I was with and to enlarge my circle or replace some people. It actually, when I started getting control of my emotions, I didn't want to be around people who didn't have control of theirs and wouldn't listen when I said, hey, maybe that's not the best approach. And so it kind of put some people who were in the front burner on the back burner. You know, and if they continue on the path they're on, they might be off the stove altogether.
It's a cold world.
It is, but again, it's about progress. And if you're with, you know, you are the 5 people that you're around. You know, so if I'm around people who are like-minded or have a strength that I don't have, and I'm with them to glean from their strength, that's really the next step, is getting beyond, okay, I've learned how to deal with the things that come on the inside of me, and I've become mature enough to handle them in an appropriate way. But now I have other people around me that are forcing me to grow and stay along this path. Because once you start reverting back to the emotionalism, you start attracting those people around. Those people always either get you in trouble or screw you up.
And I want to also challenge you as a form of growing as we like closing. Those 5 people that you decide to surround yourself around, surround yourself with someone who's emotionally stronger than you, someone that's significantly weaker than you, someone who's on par with you, someone who you don't understand, and finally someone who you wish to understand. Because those people, I don't know if that was 5 or not, but those people tend to mold your character. If you're around a bunch of people who only say yes to you, once again, you're back in your mental cave when you're the only one that's right, which means you're innately wrong. So strengthening yourself through others and individuals is a perfect way to gain emotional intelligence. But first, don't be afraid to branch off and really explore yourself and how you are going to mentally solidify yourself in your own mindscape and also in the social life that you live and the people that will experience you from day in to day out. People's ability to catch on to your ability to mentally handle stuff is very apparent. There's no hiding it, really.
Yes.
And I really think it was this is a great topic. You've been meaning to talk about it. And I feel like we can actually talk about this more in extent, especially when it comes down to relationship, because there's different facets. Relationship, mental intelligence. Like when you're not only responsible for your mental intelligence, but you're responsible for your partner's mental intelligence. You have to be able to play off of each other. Eric being married, he has his connection with his wife is so strong, it's almost annoying to me because they are one in a pair and they have the ability to finish each other's sentences, which is mind-boggling to me because that level of trust is something I don't understand. And that's where my right then and there, that's where my mental intelligence is lowered. Like my inability to understand that level of trust makes me cautious of it. That is weakness that I know about and that I'm constantly trying to fix. I want to be able to trust someone on that level. So once again, you gotta self-identify. This is what the podcast is all about. Like, you have to self-identify. Eric, where can they find us?
At The Identity Booth on Instagram and on Facebook and on Project ETO on YouTube, where you probably watching this right now.
Unless you're listening to it on the podcast, because we got the podcast now.
If you ain't on iTunes, if you ain't listening to us on Google Play, you probably watching this on iTunes.
Player FM. We gotta figure out a way to do this. Like, I don't. Maybe I will have to just start putting the YouTube link within the description section because people might be watching this like on Player FM. A lot of people.
Yeah, they might want to see our face. I mean, we handsome young men. I'm sure people want to look at us.
We do all right with this.
Hey, listen.
We're a humble group of people here.
Hey, listen. I already got my pink and green chick. I'm waiting on you to follow suit.
I'm working on it.
You know what I mean?
People sliding in my DMs. I don't know.
Hey, if they ain't rocking that pink and green, I don't know.
In fact, you slide at people. It's you sending me contested. So I have plenty of opportunities, but we definitely greatly appreciate you guys being here. We've been rolling out a lot of content for you guys lately. We're trying to keep up. There's been a lot of single.
Too much.
It's a lot going on, man. Like. Not even just in the news aspect, just personal life.
Hero jet setting and all that.
And
he busy.
I've been on so many interviews, probably, and up to this point now, like, so I would have probably been to Chicago. I've been back from Virginia by now. Like, I already know how tired I am of these like trips and these random things. And then I just got like this stupid offer to be an ophthalmology assistant, and that could be the end of all my troubles. But troubles is what we have, and because I have the ability for emotional intelligence, whoa, look at the tie-in. We're back to square one. Yep. So we greatly appreciate you guys being with us and identifying with us. This is Piro, as always, my co-host, Eric. This is the Identity Booth. Take it easy. Oh, we out of here. Emotions, we got it in the book, Eric. I don't want to hear nothing else about it.
Running theme, man. We gotta keep bringing it up, especially for the brothers, man. Like, bro, like I think we should let Shawnee and
Joy should have it out. Maybe we should have a battle of the sexes on this. I'm interested to know.
Shawnee and her would agree, though.
What about against us?
I mean, I don't disagree with anything she said. So that's why I'm with it. That's why I'm saying maybe we should let them take over the booth. That episode might do really well if we let them take over the booth. We just get all the stuff in the background.
Really? And we'll be voiceover. I'll be sitting here drawing the whole time. I'll be really excited to draw the comic book. Let's clap and get straight into catch up. 3, 2, 1.